excited that we're back. We're back.
We're back.
Season
Yeah,
2 already.
we're not going to burst into song with that one, but there is now automatically Gloria and Gloria Gaynor is now playing in my brain. Sorry, guys, it happens a lot. It is great to be back for this first episode of our second season. Um, and this one we're calling Being Visible as an Introvert Business Owner because the entire theme of this season is going to be visibility because we have seen how much of a challenge that is for ourselves personally and for other introvert and sensitive business owners and business owners generally. It's a pretty tough thing to combat this whole piece around visibility. So we've got some amazing guests lined up for this season as well. Really excited to share with everyone. And we're going to be having some really interesting, deep, soulful conversations around what it means to show up and be seen in your business, particularly in the online world, aren't we?
Yeah. And how that looks different, like how that can look different for different people and different personalities, and playing to your strength. I think as soon as you say sort of like visibility, you kind of imagine like on a stage with a spotlight, like you're right there. Whereas actually it doesn't have to be, that sort of obvious. It can be quite subtle and it can play to your strengths. And that's, I think, what we dive into quite nicely is how does it look for you, rather than the kind of obvious ways to be visible. There's a lot of alternatives for people that feel less comfortable with being on a stage, for example. And I think that is a nice thing about being sort of a more sensitive person, is that you're quite good at putting the spotlight on others and helping them shine and lift them up. It's not about you, is it? It's about helping others. So I think that's comes kind of maybe a bit more naturally. We're not limelight hoggers at all.
Not even a little bit. And I think we're going to come back to that. It's not about you thing, probably repeatedly, not just in this episode, but through the whole series. Before we fully dive into this episode, I thought it might be good to kind of reiterate to people what Digital Gold Dust is actually all about and what it stands for as we're starting a new season. So in terms of who this podcast is for, we're really talking to our fellow sensitive souls who are running their service-based businesses, possibly with a sensitivity angle, or trying to run their business in alignment with their own sensitivity, struggling to find their place in the world and hearing a lot of noise around, this is what you should be doing.
Yeah, the
shoulds. Grinds my gears, that one. Should is one of my least favorite words. We're also talking to those purpose-led business owners who are all about mindfulness and intention and identity and clarity, and really leading from the heart, because that really resonates for both of us, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's probably who we attract as well from how we talk about things. People can resonate with that. So yeah, they're the people we're calling in.
Yeah, absolutely. So we want to be kind of that refreshing alternative to all the shoulds and the hustle and the marketing bros. It's just not how we operate at all. We're very much about intuition, doing it your way, doing things a bit more organically, less of the cookie cutter formulaic stuff, because what works for someone over there is not necessarily going to work for you.
Yeah.
There is no absolute, if you do this, you will achieve this. It just doesn't work like that.
No, exactly. And I think that intuition piece is underrated in this world. So it's time to shine a light on that.
Absolutely. And we want you to know that, yes, you can have a successful and fulfilling business as a sensitive person and as an introverted person, that you can use your sensitivity as a strength. It's your superpower, and we're going to talk about that later in the series.
Yeah, lots of juicy ones coming up on that.
Yeah, we do. We want you to know how important it is to have clarity and to know who your ideal client is. Again, there's something we're going to come back to time and time and again, is about making it not about you, basically making it about someone else. And that makes that visibility piece so much easier. Digging deep and doing the work is the best investment of your time. We want to show you why, and we're hoping that through all of these episodes, that's going to click for you, because it's going to save you loads of time further down the line.
Yeah, exactly. It's that kind of thing, isn't there? That there's really no shortcuts. But what it does do, as you say, is save you time going around in the same circles further down the line, and that investment up front is actually the best thing that you could probably do.
We're doing this ourselves with this podcast, as uncomfortable as it can feel at times. And really, that last point about feeling safe for sensitive people to step into light leads us neatly into this whole season, and in particular this episode, all being about visibility.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I think that is an absolute anchor, is that kind of the feeling of safety, as much as you might not necessarily know that that's something that you need to be aware of, but energetically it's probably something that's holding you back in a lot of ways. So I think unpacking that is going to be quite good to have that platform from which you can develop your idea of visibility in a way that lends itself to your strengths.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As an introvert, even if you're shy, if you're surrounded by other people that kind of operate on the same wavelength as you, like you and me doing this, I always said I am never running a fucking podcast, because that would be my worst nightmare, to just sit and talk by myself and then put that out into the world. That just sounded horrible to me.
Yeah, and here we are. Same. I had no desire or thought I'd be brave enough to do it. And even when I got to the point where it was kind of like, okay, I feel like we need to do this, and when we kind of decided, okay, let's give it a go, let's just see how we go, no pressure. And well, I was like ill for a week with the stress of like just putting your voice out there. And it's funny now, like, after one season, kind of feel quite at home. And when we've had guests come on and feel really nervous, and we're kind of like, no, it's fine, we're just here, we're just having a chat, get a cup of tea, we're having a chat. And that's a nice thing. It does feel like we're just sitting here having a chat, rather than imagining that this is going out to a community of people.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I think what you've touched on there is one of the sort of key takeaways from this thing about being an introvert and visibility, is it takes practice, and you kind of have to do it to realize, to get that perspective of, oh, actually this is really not that big a deal. And it's not like anybody has come up to either of us online and gone, who do you think you are talking about that? You can't say that. We've received nothing negative whatsoever, which is, of course, what your brain tells you is going to happen. And someone's going to pipe up and go, what the fuck do you think you're talking about?
Yeah, you have no place here talking about this stuff.
How it feels to be visible as an introvert is largely, oh, good God, please don't. Right?
Right. Yeah. I think, again, it's like, what does that, it's getting clear on what like your idea of visibility is. And again, something that we talk about quite a few times, and what's coming up in this season, is playing to your strengths without using it as an excuse to hide. Like, oh, well, I don't like doing that, so I won't. Oh, it's fine for me to not do that. It's like, you still want to kind of, stretch the edge of your comfort zone and do things that will sort of challenge you and make you grow and make you learn, but not to the extent where you're a nervous wreck. although that is what I did with the podcast. I had to go over the nervous wreck bit but you know, there's a difference between like, this is where I'm strongest, and
Yeah.
actually this is going to, you know, support my business better. I'll have better energy coming to it, than if you're trying to force yourself into something that doesn't feel comfortable, that doesn't align with your values, that doesn't naturally suit your strengths. I mean, obviously you can learn and build up. If, you know, being a podcast host is never like, you know, that's not a strength until you practice at it, as you say, as with a lot of things. But it's working out what suits you, and not, again, not going with the shoulds. Like, in order to have a successful business, I should be doing reels, I should be doing a podcast, I should be crazy on Pinterest, I should be doing 10 different marketing streams and in Facebook and on Instagram and writing blogs and, you know, doing YouTube videos. You know, there's, the beauty is there's loads of ways to be visible, and whether writing is more your strength or talking is more your strength, you know, you can kind of play to those. But you get to choose. And again, it comes back to that permission slip, doesn't it, of like, you know, you're allowed as your own business owner to decide how you want your business to be. And again, I know we're go into more depth with that with one of our guests coming up on the
I love that you've talked about, you know, sort of safe zones and playing to your strengths, because our listeners may or may not know, my particular safe zone is writing. It always has been, probably always will be. And obviously I can edit and reshuffle things through the written word as well. And I love showing up on LinkedIn and my blog posts and website, my newsletters. And possibly, if you didn't know me and you read something I'd written, you wouldn't necessarily, unless I was talking about being an introvert and being shy, you wouldn't necessarily peg me as being those things, because I'm so in my zone and so at ease showing up in that way, and have been doing so for a really long time. It's not like I've started doing it and overnight I'm able to be visible in those spaces and be really comfortable with the potential for tumbleweed or judgment, or, you know, someone saying something. We're talking about the best part of a decade of doing those things.
Yeah, like you say, it takes practice.
Refining it. Yeah. So we don't want anyone thinking that it's kind of, it should just be a complete overnight no-brainer, easy to do thing. It does take practice to reach the stage of being. Because someone said to me this week, actually, on a call, you just sound like you don't give a fuck when you show up in your newsletters and stuff. You're completely, you know, Sammy, I'm a bit of a nerd. Or I'm a lot of a nerd. And so, like, nerdy gifts and my Harry Potter Lego and all kinds of weird shit appear in my content.
With my Star Wars Grogu mug. The force is strong with this little one.
Cute.
Holding up my mug for anyone that's just listening, with my little point. Grogu on it.
Good point. But a couple of people came out of the woodwork this week and said, I think you sound really cool. Even what are you talking about? I'm being a complete nerd. Like, out and out, as much of a nerd as I can be. And the response was basically, one, it connected, because we're all nerds. Really.
Yeah.
And two, it came across, just seems like you don't give a fuck. Like, you don't seem to care about the potential for anyone judging you. Of course I care. Of course I care. We all do.
Yeah.
To a degree. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I don't care, and that I don't get a little bit of the fear every time I put something out into the world. More around these podcasts now than any of my written stuff, because that I feel like I've kind of practiced that enough.
Yeah, it's totally
But I
natural,
think,
isn't it? Because we all fear rejection.
yeah.
And I think, especially with the nerd thing and the whole, you sound cool whilst being your nerdy
The
self,
funniest
just
thing.
doesn't like it does because we're kind of we're probably, we're all kind of programmed from school days when, we were taught from a very young age that nerdy
Nerd.
wasn't cool. So,
Nerd alert.
used to being singled out or bullied or
Yeah,
picked on for being different. And then you say, actually, deep down, everyone's got their own little inner nerd, just in different ways. Or, back then it was just kind of getting that approval, wasn't it? So it's pretending to be someone else, which we talked about in the first season, and how exhausting
mm,
it is, that inauthenticity, and how you can only keep that up for so long before it, burns you out, really.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think it's important that we bear in mind that there are things you can put in place to make it easier to be visible, as well as tackling some of the mindset stuff. Like,
Yeah, and that takes time too. You're
I,
not just going to
I,
be like, tomorrow
no,
I'm gonna, get over this fear and just put myself out there. You know, it's not, you can't flick a switch. Like it's gonna keep rearing up, isn't it? Even when you have mastered certain things, it never really goes away. You just learn how to deal with it better. And obviously your confidence does grow the more you practice. And so that does help mitigate some of that fear,
yeah,
but never goes
confidence
away.
doesn't come overnight, it comes from doing, right? But
Yeah.
I think in terms of, obviously, we've got this podcast, which makes us quite visible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, audio and video. I mean, that's a whole new level of visibility we're working on for this season.
It is. We're practicing what we preach,
Yeah, we are walking the talk.
or we're trying to, or we're posting and then running away. How about that one? That's a coping.
Yeah,
That's a perfectly valid technique for getting visible. It's posting and then running
yeah,
away.
survival technique. Post and hide.
So my email newsletters, I don't generally sit there, type it out, and then hit send and watch it go out, and then for people reading it. I
Yeah,
I
that,
I,
that
I
open and
back
click through rates.
yeah, no. I batch write them, pre-schedule them, and then they kind of just go out in the background. And then if I get responses, then I, respond. But generally, you can pre-schedule stuff to help you get visible and not
Yeah,
have that fear thing because it's not so immediate.
yeah, and like just don't overthink it. I think we're
Mm.
really easy, isn't it? And obviously, I think probably more sensitive people probably more likely to overthink and procrastinate about it, and let
Yeah.
that completely stop you from doing anything.
Yeah.
And it's generally, I would always say, pretty much always never as bad as you think. Like once you've done it, it's like, oh, it's done, and nothing crumbled or just, the world didn't end. It just everyone just keeps going. And some of that comes back to like it's not all about you. And
Mm.
as much as you are the center of your business and your business story, there's also putting it in perspective in terms of you're not the most important thing to your audience and your clients. Like everyone has their own life, everyone's worrying about their own visibility, so like we're all in it together kind of thing. I think that sometimes just kind of helps to ground you in terms of, no one's scrutinizing you probably that
Mm.
much as you are scrutinizing yourself.
I mean, the whole thing with showing off on social media, all that, you're desperately trying to get attention
Mm,
because it's a noisy space and it is an attention economy product.
yeah,
Um, there's lots of things vying for anyone on there's attention. So yeah, it's a funny paradox,
it is. And
that
it's
one.
it's that instant gratification as well, isn't it? Like we're being taught and groomed to want and need that instant gratification of
Mm.
the likes, the instant reactions, when actually, again, a topic we talk about in the season is it takes time, and you don't know what you're putting out there, who it lands with, that might come back to you in 3 months, 6 months, a year. Just because you haven't got an instant response doesn't mean what you're saying isn't valid, or that it hasn't landed. Or how many times have any of us read something or seen something and thought, oh yeah, that's a really good, or you've sympathized with somebody, or what, you've had a reaction, but you don't necessarily immediately email them and tell them that. You just think it and move on with your day. But obviously when you're on the other end and it's like the tumbleweed, like, oh God, everybody hates me, everybody thinks I'm an idiot, you don't know what's going on in other people's brains, and how actually something you've said landed, and during their journey they come back to it at a later time and come back to you at a later time.
Yeah.
Just trusting the process, which is always a work in progress for most of us,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Something you were saying a moment ago that I'd like to just quickly come back to, which is about it not being about you. We both talk about this a lot in our methodologies with how we work with our clients. I think we do put our ideal clients at the center of things. Your ideal thing. I saw a really great post on LinkedIn, and I'm not going to be able to find it now, so I'm not going to look for it. The other day, it was basically, why are you making yourself the hero of your story? Because you're not. Your ideal client is the hero of your brand story. That's what they're going to connect with. You're their guide. And I think that's just one, obviously, it's a really lovely analogy. We don't have to be trouncing about with superhero capes on. What we need to be doing with our stories is positioning our ideal clients as the hero. We're then kind of a little more behind the scenes, and we're talking about stuff from their perspective rather than from our perspective, which makes a much better connection, makes us not sound like egotistical maniacs. And as an introvert, sensitive person, however you want to position, right, however you identify yourself, personality wise, it's just a much more comfortable way of getting visible.
Yeah. And I think that all ties in with it being about something bigger than just yourself. And I think as human beings, we need to feel connected to, I don't really want to say purpose, because I think purpose can be quite heavy for a lot of people, and there's that fear of like, I haven't found my purpose, what is my purpose? The pressure can come on. But it's that mission of, what are you doing this for, who are you doing it for, and that is greater than yourself. And so that's what kind of gives you the fire in your belly. So that's what gets you up in the morning. That is what makes you do what you want to do. I think particularly for people that are going to be listening to this, they're not getting up every day because they just want to make more money. Like they're getting up and going to do their job every day because they care about their clients, they care about the impact, they care about making the community healthier, or people having better well-being, people being fitter, people being more resilient, all those things that are far greater than just you as the business owner. And so it's so easy to slip out of that mindset, especially I think in your early days when you're trying to get things going and you're having to learn a million things, and you feel like you're putting yourself at the center of a lot of things because it's on you to do everything. And so it can feel about more about you than it actually is. And so it's like tapping back into the mission, which is why the process we both work with of having that mission statement is so important, and brings you right back to, oh God, yeah, that is why I'm doing this. And that critically is more powerful and more important than my discomfort or fear of being visible, because like I need to do this work because it's helping people, or it's making people's lives better, or it's bringing them joy, or whatever it is. It's that purpose is so much greater, and so that can help you overcome, because it's like, who am I to sit here and be all fearful and shying away when I've got bigger things to get on with, as I sit here waving my pen around, very making my point.
Officiously.
Yes.
So one of the key elements of visibility that you are the absolute MVP on, is branding and visual, that whole visual identity piece. Let's talk about that. How does great branding help you stand out?
I mean, obviously there's like the obvious things of it can make you stand apart, particularly in an industry where there's maybe a bit of a common look or a common feel. I'll use nutrition as an example, where there's like a lot of green on most, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, the association is obviously there for a reason, but obviously there's ways through branding that you can make yourself stand out. But I think what's really important is that when you've got the right branding, it actually does a lot of the legwork for you in your business. And I think that's particularly helpful if you are more introverted, and it's a way of filtering your audience, in a way, like attracting the right kind of client or customer to you. And so that has a huge amount of benefit in terms of, if you run something like a discovery call or a clarity call, then, if you've got branding that is really aligned with your mission and your values and really speaks to your ideal client, again, it's putting them at the center of that brand story. It means that you're having less awkward conversations. You're not having to do the sales pitch so much, because people are already on board. They're already connecting with you. And I think branding has a real benefit of being able to connect with your audience in a very visual way, because that is the first thing you will emotionally react to, is the colors, the look, the feel, before you get into the words. And obviously, as we know, both of us bring those two sides, and we know how important both of those roles are. But obviously with something visual, it's very instinctive, and you can feel if something's off. Like, and we know, especially in today's world, you've got 4 seconds to grab someone's attention when they kind of land on your website. Then that visual piece becomes really important. And I think it can help, again, if you do it in the right way and you do that deeper work, it can help push to the forefront like your uniqueness and your special blend that you bring. And obviously that is front and center, because people are going to come to you for you and your way of doing things. And so it can support that in a really strong way.
Beautiful, thank you. So we've covered what it can feel like and what you have to overcome with visibility as a business owner, using your voice to get visible, which we are doing, as uncomfortable as it is for us at times. It's getting better, right? How great branding helps you stand out, how great copy helps you to connect. So really, and we've kind of covered some tips throughout this episode on how to overcome your fear of visibility. I think what I come back to is when we get into that mindset spiral of, oh my God, people are going to be looking at me. What's worse, being seen or being ignored?
Yeah, exactly. Because, whatever way you do it, you do have to put yourself out there. People need to hear about you and your services to know that is available. It's why advertising is so powerful and still runs. That's how brands get their products out there. It's telling people it's up to you then if you need or want that product. But obviously if you're not telling anyone, then no one's going to really know. So you've got to find the way to get yourself visible where the people who need what you're offering can see you. And so it's, maybe being a little bit strategic about, especially if that's quite energy draining for you, is finding out, being, a bit more savvy about it and finding ways to, there's no point going hell for leather. And I've seen clients do this before, like going hell for leather on TikTok when your clients aren't on TikTok. If your demographic is, teenage to mid-20s, then yeah, go for it if you feel like that's a platform that you can connect with those people. But if you're not, if you're working with a maybe an older demographic, then that's probably not the best place to put your energy. So it's like finding that balance of, again, sort of where you are comfortable, where your strengths are, and where your clients are, so that you don't fall into that trap of like being ignored, because you're either not being visible or you're being visible in the wrong places. The takeaway is that there are lots of ways to be visible, and I think coming up in the season, obviously just because of our recording schedule, we've done a few already, that we've got some really nice guests that go quite into that, in terms of how we've worked with them to play to their strengths and had some quite surprising results, and how that's really where the magic is. So it's about turning your sensitivity and maybe your introvertedness into, how can it work for you? What does it give you? What does it bring you? Like, I think it's often looked as a very negative thing, isn't it? Like, that shyness, or this, you're very shy, or you're this or that. And it's like, no, that's a positive, because it brings you a whole skill set that other people don't have.
Yep.
And particularly in our line of work and the clients we work with, that is a real bonus, because it's going to make you better at your job. And so it's focusing on those things. So I think hopefully this season will be quite valuable for people to sort of have real life examples of where we've been able to shine a spotlight on that, and people have really grown by sort of harnessing and using that.
Oh, I'm just so excited for us
Gives you the
to share that. It does. I'm also excited that we have included an episode in this season where we are going to help other people get visible, because we are inviting other people's voices into the conversation.
Yes, that is a good point to end on. We want your questions.
Amazing. Thanks again so much for fantastic chat, Sammy. I am so excited to share the rest of the season with everyone.
Yeah, it's been nice to get back to the recording and our kindred conversations.